Maya Chen stood in line at Preston's Market, the only grocery store in Oakfield, Virginia. At 38 years old, she looked ordinary in her worn jeans and faded university sweatshirt. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Nothing about her suggested the 17 years she'd spent serving her country. The late afternoon sun filtered through the store windows as she waited patiently, holding a basket with milk, bread, and coffee. She'd been back in her hometown for 6 months now, living quietly in her late mother's house on Maple Street. Most days, she preferred it this way, invisible, unremarkable. "Excuse me, miss." The voice behind her was sharp and impatient. Maya turned slightly. A tall man in an expensive suit stood there, juggling his phone and a single bottle of wine. He was maybe 50, with silver hair and the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. "I'm in a terrible hurry," he said, not quite looking at her. "I just have this one item. Would you mind terribly if I went ahead?" Maya noticed the 7 people behind him in line. "There are others waiting too," she said politely. "It's just one item," he interrupted louder now. "Surely you can show a little courtesy." The cashier, a young woman named Amy who Maya recognized from the neighborhood, glanced over nervously. Other customers were starting to watch. "Sir, we're all waiting our turn," Maya said calmly. "I'm sure it won't be—" His hand shot out and grabbed her upper arm, trying to move her aside. "Listen, lady, some of us have important places to be. Not everyone can just waste time standing around." The grip was firm, controlling. Maya's body reacted before her mind fully processed it. Years of training made her muscles tense, ready. But she forced herself to stay still. She was a civilian now. This wasn't a combat zone. "Remove your hand, please," she said quietly. Her voice was steady, but there was something in it that made the man's eyes finally focus on her face. "I don't think you understand who you're talking to," he said, but his grip loosened slightly. "I'm Richard Hartwell. I own half the commercial real estate in this county." "I don't care if you own the whole state," Maya replied. "Take your hand off me, now." Richard's face flushed red. "How dare you speak to me that way? Do you have any idea what I could do to you? Who I know?" Amy, the cashier, had pulled out her phone, clearly considering calling someone. The other customers watched in uncomfortable silence. This was Oakfield. Things like this didn't happen here. "Sir, please," Amy ventured. "Maybe we can just—" "Stay out of this," Richard snapped at her. He turned back to Maya, still gripping her arm. "I think you need to learn some respect. What do you even do? Let me guess. Unemployed? Living off the government? People like you are what's wrong with this country." Something flickered in Maya's eyes. People like you. She'd heard variations of that her whole life. Too small to be a soldier. Too female to lead men in combat. Too quiet to be taken seriously. She'd proven them wrong in deserts and mountains and oceans thousands of miles from here. She'd led teams through operations that would never be mentioned in history books. She'd made decisions that saved lives and taken actions that ended them when necessary. But here, in a grocery store in Oakfield, Virginia, she was just some woman who didn't matter. "Let go of my arm," Maya repeated. Her voice was quieter now, which somehow made it more forceful. Richard must have heard something in her tone because his hand finally dropped. But his face was still twisted with arrogance. "You should be grateful I'm even shopping in the same store as you. This town has really gone downhill. Used to be a respectable place." He grabbed a shopping basket and shoved past her, cutting in front of Amy's register. "Ring this up. I don't have all day." Amy looked at Maya with apologetic eyes. Maya just shook her head slightly. It wasn't worth it. She'd learned to pick her battles. As Richard paid and left, he paused at the door. "Oh, and miss," he called back, "you might want to consider moving to a town more suited to your station in life. Oakfield values excellence." The door swung shut behind him. Maya stood there for a moment, her basket still in hand. The other customers looked away, embarrassed but silent. Nobody had stood up for her. Nobody had said a word. "I'm so sorry," Amy whispered as Maya finally approached the register. "Mr. Hartwell he's always like that." "It's fine," Maya said. But it wasn't fine. None of it was fine. What Richard Hartwell didn't know, what nobody in Oakfield knew, was that the woman he'd just grabbed and dismissed had been Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen. She'd been part of SEAL team operations in 3 different theaters. She'd earned the Navy Cross. She'd led missions that remained classified at the highest levels. And tomorrow, Richard Hartwell's world was about to change. Part 2. The Town Council Meeting. The next evening, Maya sat in the back row of Oakfield's Town Council meeting. She hadn't planned to come. After 17 years of serving her country, she'd wanted nothing more than peace and quiet. But sleep hadn't come easily the night before. It wasn't the physical grab that bothered her. She'd faced far worse than Richard Hartwell. It was the casual dismissal, the assumption that she was worthless, the way everyone had simply watched it happen. The meeting room was in the old courthouse, its wooden benches worn smooth by generations. About 40 people had shown up, mostly older residents concerned about property taxes and street repairs. Maya recognized a few faces from around town, but knew almost no one personally. She'd left Oakfield at 18 for the Naval Academy and had rarely returned. Mayor Patricia Henderson, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair, called the meeting to order. They worked through the usual business, approving minutes, discussing the budget for new playground equipment, debating whether to allow a new cell tower on the edge of town. Then Richard Hartwell stood up. He was dressed in another expensive suit, this one navy blue. He moved to the front of the room with the ease of someone who'd done this many times before. "Madam Mayor, council members," he began, his voice smooth and confident. "I'm here tonight to discuss a matter of great importance to Oakfield's future. As you know, the old Morrison property on Route 12 has been vacant for 3 years. I'm prepared to purchase that land and develop it into a strip mall that would bring jobs and tax revenue to our community." Murmurs of interest rippled through the crowd. The Morrison property was 15 acres of overgrown fields on the main road into town. "However," Richard continued, "I've become concerned about the declining quality of our town's residents. Just yesterday, I had an encounter with someone who exemplified the kind of element we should be discouraging from settling here." Maya sat very still. "I won't name names," Richard said, though his eyes scanned the room, "but we all know Oakfield has changed. We're getting people who don't share our values, who don't contribute, who expect handouts and show no respect for those of us who've actually built something." Councilmember Tom Bradford, who owned the hardware store, shifted uncomfortably. "Richard, I'm not sure what this has to do with—" "It has everything to do with my development proposal," Richard cut him off. "I'm offering to invest $3 million in this town, but I need assurances that Oakfield will maintain certain standards. We should be implementing stricter regulations on who can rent properties here. Background checks, employment verification. We need to protect what we've built." Maya felt her jaw tighten. He was talking about her, and people like her, without saying it directly, creating barriers. An elderly woman near the front raised her hand. "Mr. Hartwell, are you suggesting we discriminate against people?" "Of course not," Richard said smoothly. "I'm suggesting we maintain quality standards. There's a difference between discrimination and having expectations of excellence." Mayor Henderson frowned. "Richard, we can't implement policies that would prevent people from living here based on what?" Richard spread his hands. "I'm talking about ensuring residents are employed, law-abiding citizens who respect the community. Is that too much to ask?" He continued talking, painting a picture of a town under threat from outsiders, from people who didn't belong. Several council members looked uncomfortable, but no one directly challenged him. Richard Hartwell donated generously to local causes. He employed people. He had influence. Maya stood up. The movement was quiet, but something about it made people turn. She walked slowly down the aisle between the benches, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Excuse me, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. May I speak? Mayor Henderson blinked in surprise. Of course. Please state your name for the record. Maya Chen. I live at 417 Maple Street. Richard Hartwell's face registered recognition. A smile played at the corners of his mouth. Ah, yes, we've met. We have, Maya agreed. She turned to face the room. Mr. Hartwell grabbed my arm in Preston's Market yesterday. He told me I should leave Oakfield because I don't meet his standards. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Richard's smile faded. That's a gross mischaracterization, he said quickly. I simply asked to cut in line, and this woman was extremely rude. I was waiting my turn, Maya said calmly. You grabbed me and tried to move me aside. You assumed I was unemployed. You assumed I was living off the government. You assumed I didn't belong in your town. Now see here, Richard started. I'd like to know, Maya continued, looking at the council members, what Mr. Hartwell's standards actually are. Because I'm a homeowner. I pay my taxes. I've never been arrested. I served my country for 17 years. But apparently I don't meet the bar. The room had gone completely quiet. Richard's face was red. I had no idea about your background, and frankly, it doesn't excuse... What branch? Mayor Henderson asked suddenly. She was looking at Maya with new interest. Navy, ma'am. 17 years. That would make you... What rank when you retired? Maya hesitated. She hadn't wanted this. Hadn't wanted attention or recognition. But Richard Hartwell had pushed this into the open. Lieutenant Commander, she said quietly. Tom Bradford let out a low whistle. That's not easy to achieve. What did you do in the Navy? Another council member asked. Maya met Richard's eyes. I'm not at liberty to discuss most of my service. Much of it remains classified. How convenient, Richard muttered. Mayor Henderson shot him a sharp look. Richard, that's enough. She turned back to Maya. Ms. Chen, I apologize if you've been made to feel unwelcome in Oakfield. This is your hometown, isn't it? It is. I was born here. My mother lived on Maple Street for 43 years before she passed. The mayor nodded slowly. I remember your mother, Grace Chen. She worked at the library. Yes, ma'am. And you left for the Naval Academy at 18. I did. Richard Hartwell crossed his arms. This is all very touching, but it doesn't change the fact that this town needs standards. I'm offering to bring jobs and development, and I'm being attacked for suggesting we maintain quality of life. Maya turned to him. Mr. Hartwell, you don't know anything about me. You made assumptions based on how I looked. You grabbed me. You insulted me. And now you're standing here trying to create policies that would have prevented me from moving back to my own hometown. I never said, you said people like me. You said we don't contribute. You said we're what's wrong with this country. Maya's voice remained steady. I've served this country in ways you'll never know about. I've led teams of men and women through operations that saved American lives. I've earned decorations I can't display and fought in places I can't name. But to you, I'm just someone who doesn't belong. The room was absolutely silent now. Richard's mouth opened and closed. For the first time, he seemed at a loss for words. Mayor Henderson stood up. I think we've heard enough for tonight. Richard, we'll table discussion of your development proposal until next month. This council will not be implementing any policies that discriminate against residents, no matter how they're worded. Meeting adjourned. As people filed out, several stopped to shake Maya's hand or apologize. Richard Hartwell left quickly, his face dark with anger. Maya sat back down in the back row as the room emptied. She felt drained, exposed. Mayor Henderson approached her. Ms. Chen, could I speak with you for a moment? Of course. The mayor sat down beside her. I meant what I said. I'm sorry you were treated that way, and I'm grateful for your service. Thank you. Can I ask, are you planning to stay in Oakfield? Maya looked at the older woman. I don't know anymore. I came back because it was home. but maybe I was wrong. Please don't leave because of Richard Hartwell, the mayor said firmly. Men like him thrive when good people back down. This town is better than that, or at least it should be. As Maya drove home that night, she wondered if the mayor was right. But she also knew something else. Richard Hartwell wasn't the type to let this go. She'd embarrassed him publicly, and powerful men didn't forgive that easily. Part 3. The Investigation. 3 days later, Maya was working in her garden when a black SUV pulled up in front of her house. She sat back on her heels, trowel in hand, and watched as 2 men in suits stepped out. Federal agents. She could spot them from 100 yards away. "Maya Chen?" the taller one called out. "That's me." They approached, showing badges. FBI. Special Agents Morrison and Reeves. "We'd like to ask you a few questions if you don't mind," Morrison said. He was in his 40s, African-American, with the careful politeness of someone delivering bad news. Maya stood up, brushing dirt from her knees. "About what? Maybe we could talk inside?" She led them into her small living room. The house still looked mostly as her mother had left it. Floral curtains, family photos on the mantel, comfortable but worn furniture. Maya hadn't changed much. She'd been too tired to care. "Ms. Chen," Agent Reeves began, "we're investigating possible irregularities in your military service record." Maya went very still. "Irregularities. Specifically, allegations that you may have falsified your record, claimed credit for operations you didn't participate in, possibly forged documents related to commendations." For a long moment, Maya just stared at them. Then she started to laugh. It wasn't a happy sound. "Let me guess," she said. "Richard Hartwell." The agents exchanged glances. Morrison cleared his throat. "We can't discuss who may have brought concerns to our attention, but we're obligated to investigate any claims regarding military service fraud. It's a serious federal offense." "I'm aware of that," Maya said. "I'm also aware that my service record is mostly classified. So how exactly did someone convince you to drive out here?" Reeves pulled out a folder. "Mr. Hartwell provided us with some documentation that raised questions. He claimed to have a source with knowledge of SEAL operations who said your record didn't match any known service member." "A source," Maya repeated. "Did this source have a name?" "We're not at liberty to—" "Of course not." Maya stood up and walked to a small desk in the corner. She pulled out a locked box, opened it with a key from her pocket, and removed a single sheet of paper. She handed it to Morrison. He read it, his expression shifting. "This is a direct order from NavSpec Warcom stating that all inquiries about your service must be referred to a specific office." "That's right. The number is at the bottom." "Ms. Chen, we still need to verify." "Then verify," Maya said. "Make the call. But you should know that Richard Hartwell has been harassing me since I moved back to Oakfield. He grabbed me in public. He tried to get the town council to implement policies to force people like me out. And now he's filed a false report with the FBI to intimidate me." Morrison and Reeves looked at each other again. Reeves pulled out his phone and stepped into the hallway. Morrison stayed seated, studying Maya. "For what it's worth, ma'am, this felt off from the beginning. But we have to follow up." "I understand. Can I ask what you did, generally speaking?" Maya shook her head. "No, you can't. And if that number confirms what I'm telling you, you won't ask again." Reeves came back in 15 minutes later. His face was pale. He nodded to Morrison. "We need to go." Morrison stood up quickly. "Ms. Chen, we apologize for the intrusion. This matter is closed." "What did they tell you?" Maya asked. "That we never had this conversation," Reeves said, "and that any further inquiries about you should be referred to their office immediately. They were very clear about that." After the agents left, Maya sat in her mother's old armchair and closed her eyes. Richard Hartwell had just escalated this to a level he didn't understand, filing a false report with federal agents, attempting to discredit a service member. This wasn't just petty harassment anymore. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Chen, she answered. Commander Chen, this is Captain Williams from NavSpec Warcom. The voice was crisp, professional. We've been notified of an incident involving you. Yes, sir. The FBI has been advised that any further inquiries about your service will be handled directly by us. However, I wanted to reach out personally. Are you all right? Maya felt unexpected emotion tighten her throat. She'd been out for 6 months, living as a civilian, and she'd almost forgotten what it felt like to have people who understood, who had her back. I'm fine, sir. Just dealing with a local situation. A local situation that involves someone filing false reports about a decorated SEAL officer, Williams said dryly. Commander, I'm going to be direct. Do you need assistance? No, sir. I can handle this. I don't doubt that. But I'm also aware that you've been trying to build a quiet life. If this individual is interfering with that, we have resources. I appreciate that, sir, but I'd like to handle it my way. There was a pause. Understood. But Commander, you spent 17 years serving your country with distinction. You don't owe anyone humility. If this man wants to pick a fight with you, he should understand what he's dealing with. After the call ended, Maya sat in the growing darkness of her living room. Captain Williams was right. She'd been trying to fade into the background, to leave her military life behind. But Richard Hartwell had dragged it into the open, and now he'd made a serious mistake. Filing a false report with federal agents wasn't just harassment. It was a crime. The next morning, Maya made her own phone call to a lawyer she knew from her Navy days, someone who specialized in civil rights cases and had security clearance. Lisa, it's Maya Chen. I need your help. 2 days later, Richard Hartwell received notice that he was being sued for assault, defamation, harassment, and filing a false report. The lawsuit laid out every detail: the grocery store incident, the town council meeting, and the FBI visit. It also included something Richard hadn't expected: a partial list of Maya's decorations and commendations, the ones that weren't classified. Navy Cross, Bronze Star with Valor, 3 Purple Hearts, Presidential Unit Citation. The local newspaper got a copy. By that afternoon, everyone in Oakfield knew exactly who Maya Chen was, and Richard Hartwell's reputation was starting to crumble. Part 4. The Truth Comes Out. The story spread through Oakfield like wildfire. By the weekend, Maya couldn't walk into town without people stopping to thank her for her service. The hardware store owner gave her a discount. The coffee shop insisted her order was on the house. Strangers approached to shake her hand. She hated every minute of it. This was exactly what she'd been trying to avoid. She'd left the Navy to escape the weight of those years, the missions that still woke her at 3 a.m., the faces of people she'd lost. She wanted to be normal, anonymous, free, but Richard Hartwell had stolen that from her. The lawsuit was moving forward. Her lawyer, Lisa Chen, no relation, though they joked about it, was confident they had a strong case. The FBI had confirmed they'd been misled. Security camera footage from Preston's Market showed Richard grabbing Maya's arm. Multiple witnesses from the town council meeting corroborated her testimony. Richard, for his part, had gone silent. His development proposal was quietly withdrawn. His usual presence at town events disappeared. His lawyer had reached out about settling, but Maya had refused. This wasn't about money. Then, on a Tuesday morning, 2 weeks after the lawsuit was filed, Maya got a call from Mayor Henderson. Ms. Chen, could you come down to my office? There's something you should see. The mayor's office was in the same building as the council chambers. When Maya arrived, she found not just Henderson, but also Tom Bradford from the hardware store and Sarah Martinez, the council member who'd questioned Richard's proposals. Thank you for coming, Henderson said, gesturing to a chair. We've received some information about Richard Hartwell that concerns the entire town. I thought you should hear it first. Tom Bradford pulled out a folder. After your lawsuit became public, a few people came forward with their own stories about Richard. We started looking into his business dealings more carefully. He spread documents across the desk. Bank records, property deeds, development contracts. Richard's been manipulating town contracts for years, Sarah explained. He's been using his position on the planning board to ensure his own properties get preferential zoning. He's blocked competitors from developing land. He's even been funneling town contracts to companies he secretly owns. Maya leaned forward, studying the papers. How much are we talking about? Conservatively, he's enriched himself by about $2 million over the past 5 years, Tom said. Maybe more. He's been playing a long game, using Oakfield like his personal piggy bank. Mayor Henderson looked tired. The worst part is that several of us suspected something wasn't right, but Richard was so generous with donations, so active in the community, that questioning him felt wrong. He'd created this image of being Oakfield's benefactor. Why are you showing me this? Maya asked. Because you stood up to him, Sarah said simply. When he grabbed you in that grocery store, when he tried to humiliate you at the council meeting, you didn't back down. You showed us that people like Richard only have power when good people stay silent. Henderson nodded. We're turning all of this over to the state attorney general. Richard Hartwell is going to face criminal charges, but I wanted you to know that your courage started this. You came back to Oakfield looking for peace, and instead, you found yourself fighting again. I'm sorry for that, but I'm also grateful. Maya looked at these 3 people, ordinary citizens who'd found their own courage to do the right thing. What happens to his development projects? All under review, Tom said. The strip mall proposal is dead. Several of his properties may be seized as proceeds of criminal activity. It's going to be a mess, but it's a necessary mess. As Maya walked back to her car, she felt something shift inside her. She'd spent 6 months trying to run from her identity as a warrior, trying to become someone softer, quieter, less dangerous. But maybe that was never going to work. Maybe being strong wasn't something she could turn off. Maybe standing up to bullies, protecting people who couldn't protect themselves, fighting for what was right. Maybe that was just who she was. That evening, she got an unexpected visitor. Amy, the young cashier from Preston's Market, knocked on her door. Ms. Chen, I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted to say thank you. Maya invited her in. Amy sat nervously on the edge of the couch. I should have said something that day, Amy blurted out. When Mr. Hartwell grabbed you, I just stood there. I was afraid of losing my job, afraid of making trouble, but I've been thinking about it every day since. Amy, you were in a difficult position. No, Amy interrupted. That's just an excuse. You weren't in a difficult position, and you still stood up for yourself. You showed me that being afraid isn't a good enough reason to let bad things happen. She pulled an envelope from her purse. This is a statement for your lawyer. Everything I saw that day. And I talked to the other people in line. 3 of them are willing to provide statements too. We should have done this immediately, but better late than never, right? Maya took the envelope, touched. Thank you. This helps a lot. After Amy left, Maya sat on her porch as the sun set over Oakfield. Her phone buzzed with a text from Lisa, her lawyer. Hartwell's lawyer called. He wants to settle, offering